He chose his mistress over his family, but her billionaire father chose vengeance over mercy. People think betrayal happens quietly, behind closed doors, in whispers, but Lila's marriage ended under crystal chandeliers in front of cameras, champagne glasses, and strangers who would soon turn her pain into entertainment. She was 7 months pregnant when she saw her husband, Umar, on a balcony at a high profile charity gala. The city skyline shimmered behind him, the lights bouncing off glass towers, a perfect backdrop for devastation. He wasn't hiding, he wasn't ashamed. His hand rested comfortably on another woman's waist. And when he kissed her, it was deliberate, public, final. The crowd around them didn't see the history behind the kiss. They didn't know the late nights, the whispered promises, the family vacations that had felt like a lifetime ago. All they saw was the headline in motion: betrayal. Phones came out, whispers spread. Isn't that his wife over there? Is she pregnant? Lila felt the room tilt, not because of the baby, but because in that moment Umar had made a choice, and he made it loudly. She left without a scene. No tears, no screams, just silence. By morning, the video was everywhere. The clip repeated itself online, each loop carving Umar's betrayal deeper into public memory. Memes were made, commentary flowed, and in the chaos, Lila's own silence was louder than any protest. At home, the penthouse felt colder than ever. The city lights outside seemed dimmer. The echo of her own footsteps, the only sound. Umar didn't come back that night. He sent messages instead. Apologies that sounded more like excuses. Promises that arrived too late. He didn't deny it. He explained it. He said he felt trapped. He said he deserved happiness. He said Lila would understand. But understanding doesn't come easily when you're carrying someone's child and watching your family dissolve in public. Every word he said was a reminder she had been replaced, even before the night became a headline. While Lila tried to breathe through the humiliation, Umar went on the offensive. His PR team spun statements like acrobats on tightrope. His interviews framed him as the man following his heart. The mistress Maya stood by his side, elegant, unbothered. Every flash of camera, every recorded smile, every subtle touch on the red carpet was another declaration. Umar had moved on. What Umar didn't consider was this: Maya wasn't just a secret, she was someone's daughter. And her father was Victor Stone, a billionaire whose power didn't live on social media but in boardrooms, banks, and quiet phone calls that changed lives overnight. A man who didn't raise his voice in anger, but in strategy. One look, one subtle maneuver could shift empires. Victor didn't rage. He didn't threaten. He watched. He watched Umar smile in interviews. He watched his daughter become a headline. And he watched a pregnant woman absorb a cruelty she never asked for. Then he began to move. Umar's world started to crumble, imperceptibly at first. Investors grew nervous, routine audits became aggressive inspections, regulators asked questions no one wanted to answer, boardrooms started disappearing from calls, schedules shifting as if by magic. Each domino fell quietly, but Umar felt it all. He panicked. For the first time, he realized something was wrong, not in his marriage, but in his empire. Everything he had built with charm, risk, and ambition was now a house of cards in someone else's hands. There were memories he couldn't erase. Lila in a sunlit kitchen, laughing as she cooked breakfast for them both. Their first apartment, tiny and crumpled, filled with books, laughter, and plans for the future. Umar remembered the lie. Umar remembered the nights he promised her the word, the nights he whispered that she was enough. And now all of it had crumbled under his own choices. Meanwhile, Lila stayed quiet. She met with lawyers, not for revenge, but for protection. Each meeting was meticulous, each decision calculated. Emails surfaced, documents revealed Umar had planned his exit long before the gala. This wasn't passion, it was strategy. The affair wasn't a mistake, it was carefully executed betrayal. Every file she read, every detail she absorbed added layers to her understanding. She hadn't been blindsided, she had been underestimated. And underestimation can be dangerous. But Lila didn't just gather evidence, she began building a new life. She hired a private investigator who uncovered layers of Umar's financial manipulations. She connected with friends who had been quietly sidelined by Umar's empire. Slowly, Lila realized she didn't need to fight him in public. She just needed to let the truth speak. Meanwhile, Umar and Maya had their own cracks forming. Behind closed doors, Maya began to question whether she had been manipulated as well. Was Umar truly in love with her or was she just another pawn? Arguments erupted over small things, the tension building. The camera flashes outside now irrelevant compared to the coldness growing between them. Maya, once poised and untouchable, felt fear creep in. She realized that her father's subtle warning was more powerful than any public scandal, and the empire she thought she was entering could crumble around her as easily as Umar's. When Victor finally asked to meet Lila, she expected arrogance, power, control. A man used to having the world bow to him. I didn't come to destroy him, Victor said. I came to remind him that choices have weight. Lila told him the truth. She didn't want blood. She didn't want headlines. She wanted safety, dignity, a future for her child that wasn't built on silence. Victor listened longer than she expected, his expression unreadable, and then he stepped back. The storm, he suggested silently, didn't always need to be called down. It could be engineered to strike itself. What followed were weeks of subtle sabotage. Umar's business partners grew suspicious, deals were postponed, then cancelled. A once trusted banker refused a loan. A regulator appeared at his office unannounced. Each strike was quite almost invisible but catastrophic in effect. The truth did the rest. Investigation became public. The media, once captivated by a love triangle, now turned to corporate intrigue. Umar's company collapsed under scrutiny. Deals evaporated. His apology sounded hollow now. The man who once believed he could walk away without consequence stood alone, watching everything he built fall apart. Maya left quietly. The spotlight wasn't as warm and turned cold. Lila remembered a promise she had made to herself long ago when she was just a little girl. Watching her parents struggle to keep dignity amid chaos, she had vowed never to let anyone else's choices define her worth. Holding her child later, she understood that promise had never been about revenge, it was about survival. Umar made desperate calls, he offered partnerships, he begged friends to speak on his behalf, but every phone call ended in silence. Every room he entered felt smaller. He realized too late that the life he had chosen was gone, not because of his mistress, but because he underestimated the consequences of betrayal. Meanwhile, Lila prepared for a different kind of battle motherhood. She decorated the nursery, assembled the tiny clothes she had chosen months earlier, and whispered to her child about resilience and courage. In her quiet moments, she thought about the life that could have been and the one she was determined to build. Lila gave birth weeks later. As she stood by the hospital window holding her child, she realized something important. She had survived the spectacle, the betrayal, and the storm. She had built a sanctuary of calm amidst chaos. Betrayal may break a family, vengeance may shake the powerful, but truth rebuilds the innocent. Omar chose his mistress over his family, but in the end, he learned what many never do. Some choices don't come with mercy, they come with consequences. And some people quietly wield power without a single raised voice and change everything. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for upcoming videos.